If you have hanged around playing FromSoft Souls titles for a while, then you know that Hidetaka Miyazaki is a complete nerd when it comes to the world Berserk, the Japanese graphic novel written by Kentaro Miura. Elden Ring is plagued by references, and yes, before you come yelling at me, no, not everything is a Berserk reference, we heard you, alright? Now let's have fun with our weird theories. I have looked around the web to see if it was viable to make this video, and unfortunately or fortunately for me, some of the references showcased in here have not been spoken about at all. So you might encounter new ones, although the most obvious ones have to be mentioned as well. I have clustered as many of them as possible, and we're going to start with the more debatable ones, working our way up to the really obvious ones. Now let's start with the one that we all saw right at the trailer, but it really does not convince me that much. Farnes, Millennius' winged helmet, with its peculiar visor. Now, there are many winged helmets in fantasy. The visor is what makes it special, but I am pretty sure that we have all seen them before in other places, in other games, in other fantasies. So it isn't that clear of a references. Now, the Tree of the Dead, I know, little too far-fetched as well, really. Hanging people from trees, it's a very common thing on dark fantasy. We have all seen them on The Witcher and even Pillars of Eternity. You will always find them, but this one, the village of the Olvinarics, it really does look similar to the one seen in Berserk. Another one that is a stretch as well, Kaled. I know, right? Like, how can a complete region be a reference? As much of a nerd is Miyazaki. When the band of the Falcon was sacrificed so that Griffith could ascend to divinity, they were taken to a place that you could say it resembles Kaled. Some of the enemies that you fight are downright so twisted and nightmarish that you can even see the resemblances between them to the demons that the band of the Falcon faced on their sacrifice. There are even soldiers fighting against the hellish creatures found in this place. Now, Mikola and Griffith transformation to Femto. Now, we know some stuff about Mikola. For the most part, he seemed to be a really innocent and chill dude. I wouldn't invite him over to my house because he also seems like a weird kind of guy. But he's a nice lad, I like to believe. At plain sight, you might say that Mikola's cocoon and Griffith transformation to Femto might just look similar. But that's also far too stretched. Again, that is why it's so high on the list. Nevertheless, we do know that Mikola has been fully animated and that he has a model. A lot of folks out there believe that he might be even more evil than making you work on holidays. I guess we will have to wait for future DLC and see what happens. But then, the Vagabond and Godz. Before everything became a hellish and nightmarish mess, Godz was actually hacking and slashing merrily throughout normal human beings. Back then, he had his armor that you are seeing on screen, and yes, you could say that it does look fairly similar to that of the Vagabond Knight, but it's just a matter of some resemblances. It also looks like a regular chestplate with a padded gambeson, which is why it is so high on the list as well. Now we're getting to the juicy ones, the Arsenal Charm. The most obvious ones, it is no secret that Gatsu uses huge arsenal of weapons that he uses, pardon the redundance, to fight against the Apostles. Talisman reads as it follows. This talisman was derived from an unusual greatsword once wielded by a hero hungry for vengeance. And well, yeah, there's not much else to say. The talisman thus has the Dragon Slayer as an emblem, and it describes Godz perfectly. Griffith as a prisoner. Griffith went mad with grief when the one and only person he considered his friend, his equal. Then he committed an act of treason against the king that he served when he was a leader of the band of the Falcon. He then was sentenced, placed in prison and tortured. When found by the band of the Falcon, he then was found wearing his helmet. Also, the description of the character reads as it follows. A prisoner bound in an iron mask, studied in glintstone sorcery, having lived among the elite prior to sentencing. Before his sentence, he did live among the royalty. He was anointed knight because of his mercenary band prowess. The prisoner also starts with an S-stock, slightly different from Griffith's rapier, but still the same weapon category, nonetheless. And the Dragon Slayer, of course, speaking of weapons, Godz Gatsu Greatsword has also appeared in every single entry of the Soul series. It started with the Golden Age arc. Slimmer, God's sword was shown in Dark Souls 1 until Dark Souls 2, where they started using the model of the Dragon Slayer. Back then, it was merely a weapon design. Since description wasn't really that close to Berserk on Elden Ring though, it is. Though handling it likely requires the wielder to have surpassed the realm of the merely human, it is precisely for this reason that the weapon is used to slaughter even inhuman foes. The Dragon Slayer has one purpose, to kill demons and apostles, and yes, thanks to the Berserk armor, Godz really did surpass the realm of the merely human, although that was something he had already achieved before finding the armor. Speaking of which, the Berserk armor. There is a character in Elden Ring by the name of Blade. We all know Blade, he's a nice chap, he's a nice lad, we all love Blade. Interestingly enough, Godz uses different gear throughout the different arcs of Miura's graphic novel. One of those is precisely the Black Swordman, which is the armor that mostly resembles that of Blade's, especially on the boots, greaves and shoulder pads. Description of the armor is really nothing special or a reference to Berserk, but Blade also appeared on a teaser trailer prior to the game's launch, and well, we all saw the reference there. The Earth Tree and the Spiral Tree. There are many sacred trees in many different cultures. To be mentioned in here, the depicted Saxon Irminsul and the Scandinavian Yggdrasil, just to name a few. However, both of them have always been depicted in different ways. The Earth Tree and the Spiritual Tree from Berserk though, I mean, look at the branches, how they seem to be made of light and how they spread throughout the skies. I mean, come on, look at the damn thing. They're basically the very same thing. The Band of the Falcon, Hill of Swords. After they perished, Rickard became an apprentice blacksmith. He then crafted a weapon as memento in honor to all of his comrades who died. Many believe that this is also a From Software team way of honoring a deceased Kentaro Miura, since you can see Godz's greatsword along the rest of the weapons on the ground, which was never there in the Hill of Swords. You can find these swords scattered throughout the lands between, although often you will find them just outside of the heroes' tombs, which makes more sense, you know. They were made by Rickard in honor of the fallen heroes to honor, again, his comrades. There is also bits of lore here and there in this specific place, and while they do mostly refer to Elden Ring's characters, it is an undeniable truth that they do resemble Rickard's Hill of Swords. The Band of the Falcons itself. There is a huge discussion as to what should we call them. Miura said in an interview that both Falcon and Hawk are the very same thing in their mother language of the graphic novel, yet he named them after the Millennium Falcon. Still, people like to refer to them as the Band of the Hawks. They are found on Elden Ring as well. These walking corpses that you are seeing right now, they are the Band of the Fallen Hawks. You can find the descriptions on both great and kite shields, as well as some arrows and spirit ashes. Let us focus on the spirit ashes, since they are the best nod to Berserk as a reference. Spirits of a great shield soldiers who belong to the Fallen Hawks, a band of soldiers that once explored the Eternal City. Stout defenders with a steady guard. Though the methods are somewhat crude, they work well as a squad. And yes, their fierce strength and strange methods, that is what achieved them nobility at the end of the day, the Band of the Hawks. Crystal Tears. They are basically Griffith last crystallized Tia before he became Femta. Before that would happen, Griffith spoke to God himself. The avatars, emerging in the wake of the Elden Ring's shattering, were determined to protect the withering Earth Tree's offspring. I believe that they were fierce champions once, when the Elden Ring was shattered. They became the avatars to protect the Earth Tree. Before doing so, they met with the Outer Will and shed their final tear, just like Griffith when he faced God. My theory could be as bad as having a flu in public nowadays, but the reference is crystal clear. Gets it? Huh? So don't worry, I'll clap for myself. And finally, is Ronnie and Blade themselves. I mean, their entire quest is basically a huge Berserk reference. You could say that Ronnie is Shiake, or whatever that is pronounced. She thus uses her magical power to keep Godz from going Berserk on the armor. When Ronnie decides not to choose Blade as her consort, he goes Berserk, and you have to kill him because simping would be bad for his reputation. You could also say that Ronnie resembles Griffith because of her infinite desire to complete her goals, her dreams, even if it means that she has to forsake everything, even her closest friends. She also recruited you in a much similar fashion that Griffith did to Godz, with a band of members happy to see you and some others reluctant to your entry on the band. That being said, let me know if you believe that I missed any other reference that you might have encountered. I've gathered as much as possible, as many as possible that I could find. Many of these weren't mentioned in the web, or at least me personally have not seen them, but let me know what do you think in the comments down below in that beautiful section. That being said, remember that if no one has told you today that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person, you are indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. Remember to like the video and subscribe before you close the door. I'll be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day, and goodbye.